Okay, so this one we're going to do 2 random samples. One of an area that has been mowed, so this is the area, and hopefully you can spot there's a little patch of daisies in the top right corner and the rest is grass. Probably a couple of different species of grass, but we won't identify down to the different grass species today. So what we would do is we would grid up this area, so imagine an X and a Y axis on your screens at the moment. And what we would do is we would pick, using a random number generator, squares and then identify what's in those pictures. So here is my grid that I've drawn, and you can do this yourself at home. You can take a picture. You can basically just get a document wallet, so those plastic things that you put your paper in your A4, in your A4 folders. Draw a grid. I can get 100 squares, each 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres. So if I place that across my area that I'm interested in, I can see that over to the right I've got patches of daisies, and let's see, there we go, that's a better one, and then we've got grass everywhere else. Now, in contrast, we're going to compare mown to very much not mowed at all. Not this year, not for a good year and a half, 2 years. Okay, so you can see instantly we've got lots of different species. Shut up, duck. And we can put the grid down, assuming that the duck doesn't nick off with it. Go. Okay, so we can see on this shot, again you can grid up this area using an X and a Y axis if you want to, but you can see you've got the yellow flowers are buttercups, the 3 leaves are clover, the pointy leaf is buttercup leaf as well, and there's a couple of different grass species. We've got clover flowers over here as well, and what else have we got? Got any? No, I think that's mainly it. Oh, the dock leaves, that's what I didn't talk about. These are dock leaves because it's not been mowed. So there's lots and lots of different species here, and again if we just grid up the area, so here is our quadrat, and we can count. So for example, we've got a yellow buttercup in the middle of it, and we've got clover and a clover leaf and a clover flower just there, so we can identify all the different flowers and species that we've got in each of these squares. So you can have a go at this at home by making your own, hopefully not harangued by a duck while you're doing it, making your own little grid on your wallet, and then just compare different parts of your garden. If there's a part of your garden that's grassy, or maybe you could go out to a park. The park is the best place to do it because you can find areas which have been trampled a lot and areas that are not trampled, and see if you can spot a difference in the plant species that are present there. So, and you know, there's areas that are grown up and not grown up, so you can just look for taller plant species. So in the field, this field here that we've got, you can see that the plants are much taller, not growing close to the ground. So the clover's taller, the leaves are taller, the flowers are taller, the buttercups are taller. You know, there's parts of it that come up to your knees. However, in the mown area, plants tend to be growing more close to the ground, because when you mow it back to the peticels, and they are close to the ground, so the plants radiate out, so the daisies aren't as tall in this part of the grass. Okay, so the main principles then for quadrat sampling, using random sampling to compare two areas of land, are: you need to grid up the area using an X and Y coordinates. You could do that with 2 long tape measures perpendicular to each other. Then you use a random number generator to generate the coordinates on your X and Y axis. You place down your quadrat, which is your little sampling grid that you can draw on there, and you can either do a percentage cover using that. So count how many squares there are and say, right, okay, well, if 9 out of the 100 squares contain daisies, then I'm going to say there's 9% coverage of the daisy, and so on and so forth. So 2 squares of buttercup will give you 2%, etc. And that's the percentage cover. And then you would then be able to compare the 2 areas and decide whether there's more species in one area than another area, or if there's a greater percentage cover of daisy in one area than another. You know, if you know that a particular plant species is favoured in a mowed area versus a not mowed area, then you might suggest as an ecologist that if you're trying to, for example, you know that a particular type of breed of butterfly only likes a particular type of flower, and that flower only thrives when the grass is mowed or grazed by sheep, for example, which is what happens in certain parts of the country. They on purpose use sheep grazing because it favours certain types of flower species, which are then really good for the thriving of a butterfly population. So that's important. It gives ecologists information about biodiversity in 2 areas, and then it could lead to information about, you know, how to go forward, how to make one area more biodiverse, how to ensure and protect an area is worth protecting because it's so biodiverse, etc. Okay, so that's comparing 2 areas using random sampling and quadrats to identify plant species.